Everyone, this week we're going to be talking about how America changes after the War of 1812, and then we'll also get into Andrew Jackson's presidency. Today's assignment is going to be sketch noting. I'm just going to be going through the lesson for today and then drawing pictures, and I just want you to do the same thing at home. You will see that I'm clearly not an artist. It does not have to be perfect. Just do your best. So all you need is a few pieces of paper, pen, pencil. If you want to be ambitious and add color, you sure can. I'm going to, because I have a lot of markers actually. And when you're done, I just want you to take a picture. You can, Chase is playing with the bone right now. You could take a picture with your Chromebook or something else and then upload it to the assignment on Google Classroom. And then that will be your credit for today, okay? It's like taking notes but drawing pictures at the same time. All right, so just do your best. So today is all about nationalism. I'm going to write nationalism nice and big at the top of my paper. I'm going to get my red pen and draw little fireworks coming out of the word nationalism. Then I'm going to get my blue pen and do the same thing. So nationalism is basically a feeling of pride and loyalty towards your country. So I'm going to give you guys two examples here. One that's from right after the War of 1812, and then one that is a personal example to me. So on one side we're going to write after's a little bit cut off there, after the War of 1812. And on the other side, we're going to write after the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So I want you guys to think about how pumped the city of Philadelphia was when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. I'm going to draw this little man here with an Eagles hat. This is what nationalism kind of reminds me of. It's just having like a feeling of pride towards a sports team. So here's my man with the Eagles hat. And he is saying things such as E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles. I can't even tell you how many times I heard that after the game, going home that whole entire next year. It's crazy, but it was awesome. Maybe he's singing a little bit of the Fly Eagles Fly song. That didn't get old for a while either. So just like the city of Philadelphia was so excited after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, that's kind of how America feels after Great Britain is defeated in the War of 1812. So I'm just drawing this little guy with an America party hat. Put a little star on top of him. He's chanting things like USA, USA. We'll throw a little woohoo in here. Maybe he has an American flag on his lawn. He's just so proud to be an American. Just like I'm proud to be an Eagles fan, especially after they won the Super Bowl. That made it a lot better. I think he's even going to sing. Oh, getting a little bit cut off here. We're going to start singing the Star Spangled Banner. Oh, say can you? He's really going to belt out the C. C. Okay. So moving on. So that's how the nation's feeling right now. So in 1815, President James Madison, he's going to support a plan called the American System. Draw this in blue and red. This plan is proposed by a representative from Kentucky, and I'm going to draw his picture in here. His name is Henry Clay. All right, here we go. This did not go well. I tried to actually look, and I really did try here. I hope Henry Clay, he deserves better than this. I don't even want to say what he looks like. Okay, so anyways, there's Henry Clay. Look up a real picture of him. And basically, this is a plan to make America more self-sufficient. Basically, it will improve the economy because America won't be relying so much on Great Britain and other foreign nations for imports and different goods. They can start making things themselves and boosting up their own economy instead of helping other nations' economies. So there's 3 parts to this plan. Number 1 is to establish a protective tariff. Remember the good old word tariff? Remember, tariff is a tax on imported goods. So goods coming into the country from abroad, from foreign nations. So for this, I'm going to draw a little boat here. Boat is carrying a bunch of imported goods. The boat's coming from Europe. It's carrying things that are imported into our country, such as glass, tea, and paper. Now, when it gets to America, that's when the tax starts. So all these goods will now be taxed. And when you tax these goods, what it ultimately does is raise the prices. So why would they want to raise the prices? Well, think about it. If it makes European goods more expensive, then guess who's going to want to buy not European goods and maybe purchase good old cheap, well, I shouldn't say cheap, less expensive American goods that don't have a tax on them. So this will encourage Americans to want to buy these American goods instead, and that's going to help the economy. So that's part 1 of the American system plan. Part 2 is to establish the second national bank. So for this, I'm just going to draw what I think of when I think of a bank building, and it's not going to be pretty. But if you remember, the first national bank was set up by the Federalists. It's part of Alexander Hamilton's economic plan. And it's now up for renewal. So basically, they just want to keep this going. So they want to keep the national bank going. They like the idea. They like what it's done for the nation. I'm kind of running out of space here if you can't tell. And another main thing that's going to do is it's really going to promote one currency. At this time, there's also some state banks that are issuing their own money still, even though they're not supposed to. But the main goal of the national bank is going to have one common currency, and that's going to make trade so much easier between different states and different countries. They're really going to drive that point home here. Okay, so I draw a little dollar. And then the third part of the American system is to improve industry and infrastructure. Infrastructure is like buildings, roads, things that just make the country run more smoothly. So for industry, I'm going to draw these little pillars and their factories to represent a factory. There's smoke chutes coming out of them. During this time, they're going through an industrial revolution. We will actually talk about that more later. But factories and mills producing a bunch of different goods, plus better roads, so poor transportation systems that they had right back then, that makes the transportation of goods and services slow and very inefficient And if it's slow and inefficient, then it costs more money. So that's why they're motivated to make better roads, to build canals. Canals are basically waterways that, we'll get more into this later too, but it just adjusts the levels of the rivers so that boats can go through, and it just makes everything way more efficient, makes the economy run much smoother. So all of this is going to increase the economy, let America make more money, and then it just improves life all around. Okay, so I have to move on to my next page. I don't know where you're at right now, but in 1816, sorry, I wrote that a little bit early there. I had to cut that. James Monroe becomes the 5th president of the United States. Yeah, I'm going to attempt to do another drawing. I hope he turns out a little bit better than Henry Clay did, but we'll see. So they kind of had the same outfit, actually. I really tried for this one, too. I think I like Madison better. So the main point to take about James Madison is a statement that he made called the Monroe Doctrine. So I'm drawing like a little proclamation type deal thing here. So in 1823, James Monroe gives a State of the Union address where he declares that America should basically be closed off from Europe. So if there's no more European colonization, so if the Europeans just stop trying to colonize North America, then the U.S. would mind their own business with European foreign affairs. They felt that the further European colonization is dangerous to our peace and safety, and this is basically in response to multiple countries in Latin America. They're fighting for and gaining their independence from European nations such as Spain and Portugal, and they feared that European nations would seek to fight to regain their colonies, and that would then put the U.S. at risk. So in return, he promises that America will stay out of their foreign affairs. So if you think about this, this is a pretty bold move. That's why I'm drawing a muscle there with saying America flex. We'll get more into this later, but it shows that America clearly views itself as a world power if they're going to issue such a statement. Okay, so moving on. So between 1815 to 1825, that's something that we call the era of good feelings. They're super creative with their language here. But I'm just drawing a ton of smiley faces because this is what I think of when I think of good feelings. Flowers, hearts, just happiness. Okay, so America basically has a new purpose now. They just want to better themselves, and they have a new sense of identity as a nation. Nation, nationalism, nationalistic, all those words come together. So there's a couple things that contribute to this being the era of good feelings. Number one is I'm going to draw my good old smokestacks again. So the Industrial Revolution causing America to produce a ton of its own goods, plus the American system, which is all really just to make America, like I said, self-sufficient. All of this is leading to a good old increase in the American economy. When the economy's doing good, there's more money flow, and people are generally a lot happier. So I'm going to just add some dollar signs here to just show that's about the money. 2, there's now a sense of unity. So I drew Delaware Dan, Kentucky Kate, and Pennsylvania Pete, and they're all wearing a USA shirt. They're not wearing a Delaware shirt. They're not wearing a Kentucky shirt or a Pennsylvania shirt. They're wearing USA, and they're doing it together. So they're all yelling out, "We are Americans." So this is just like a brand new sense of unity. So American unity and nationalism. also, by default, this just gives more strength to the federal government, because remember before the state governments had more power, people would be like, oh, I'm a Pennsylvanian, I'm not an American. But now if they're kind of viewing themselves as American, it just gives the federal government more legitimacy. Okay, so the third thing is there's better transportation systems. So we have better roads, and we have some canals, as I said earlier. And because, if you think about transportation, getting from point A to point B, all the different states probably felt very separate before. That's probably why they didn't identify as one whole nation, because it probably seemed so far to drive from Pennsylvania to Virginia or something like that. But now that there's better roads and then there's canals, and the transportation's improved, it kind of links America up. They all feel a little bit more connected now because it's, in general, just less time to get there. So I drew all these states very poorly, and I'm putting them in like the same little bubble, and I wrote cozy there. They're all nice and cozy because they're just the time, they don't feel so apart anymore. They don't feel so far. Okay, and then the fourth thing is that the U.S. expands and defines its borders. This is something that we will talk about much later, in the next chapter, when we talk about Manifest Destiny, but here I'm just going to draw a really terrible outline of the United States. Remember, this is the 13 colonies before the Revolutionary War, and then after the war. That's supposed to be the Mississippi River, but after the war we gained all this land from the Treaty of Paris. That backed up to, so we basically gained all the land east of the Mississippi, and then the Louisiana Purchase is giving us some land west of the Mississippi River. But that's not just going to be where we stop. If you notice, now California's still all the way over there. So I drew a little sign here that says, don't stop now. And the United States is going to continue to move in that direction, move westward. This is kind of also influenced by the Monroe Doctrine as well, because they're keeping Europeans out. So they're going to keep moving west. And there you have it. It's a beautiful. So as awesome as this period of nationalism and the era of good feelings in America sounds, there's always another side to this. So yes, America does become more nationalistic, and they do start to view themselves as a legit world power. However, as the nation grows, so are the differences between the different sections, such as the North, the South, and the West. They're going to grow too, and they're going to create something called sectionalism. But we will talk about that tomorrow. Thank you for drawing along. Please don't be ashamed of your drawings. You saw mine. You saw poor Henry Clay here. Please take a picture of however many pages you did with your Chromebook or with your phone or whatever, and then upload it to the assignment on Google Classroom, and then you will get the full credit for today. All right? Thank you guys. Have a great night.